Hello, empowered woman. Welcome to this episode of the Empowered Woman podcast. You better brace yourself for today's interview. One of my clients gifted me an amazing personal development book, and for the first time in a long time, I basically read it all in one sitting. It was so good, and I connected with the author on social media and invited him on this show. I talked to Steve SIMS, author, speaker, coach, and named by Forbes the real Wizard of Oz. His specialty is making things happen. He's worked with Sir Elton John, Elon Musk. He's taken people on a submarine down to the Titanic. He's a freaking legend and has so much wisdom to share, especially for us entrepreneurs. We talked about getting out of your own way, handling your emotions, the importance of interpersonal relationships in business and life, and so much more. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Empowered Woman podcast, the #1 show on personal growth, visibility, and profit for women entrepreneurs. If you're wanting to start believing in yourself, giving yourself permission to succeed, and let your voice be heard to make an impact in the world as an entrepreneur, this is the place for you. I am so glad that you're here. My name is Marcia Spurk, and I'm your host, triplet mom, woman empowerment coach, and all things motivation extraordinaire. Welcome again, and let's dive into today's episode. Hi, Steve. Thank you so much for joining me today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yay! I am so excited. So quick background story before you give your little intro of who you are and what you do. One of my clients read your book and she sent me a copy and she said, you need this because you are so encouraging to me in my growth as an entrepreneur. And this totally reminds me of you when I read it. And I was like, all right, fine. And I have to tell you, I have started handful, probably more than a handful of personal development books that I never finished. And yours, I read in like a couple sittings. So that says a lot. It's just so engaging, so amazing. And I think what I resonated the most with, obviously, is just the action taker in you that I resonate with so much. But before I go any further, please introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do, and I'll move forward with my questions.
Wow. I'm like every other entrepreneur in the planet. I started off by being aggravated and wanting more of my life. I went from being a bricklayer in East London to launching one of the world's first experiential concierge firms. I'm famous for dealing with the richest people in the planet, sending them down to the Titanic, getting them a drum lesson with Guns N' Roses, getting them married in the Vatican by the Pope. I'm basically the Make-A-Wish agency for people with really big checkbooks. Forbes, an entrepreneur, called me the real life Wizard of Oz. 3 years ago, I wrote a book because I was asked to and I was paid very well to write a book. Didn't think it would take off, never had a website, just didn't believe anyone would believe it. I wanted them to, but I didn't think they would deal anything with it. I was wrong. And so now I speak all over the planet. I train, I coach. I have events called speakeasies. And I'm out there to basically get people to start going for stupid, stop overthinking, start overdoing, and get out of the way of themselves.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And you know what was really, what really caught my attention from the beginning of everything is that I've been describing myself as this person that if there is no way, I will literally tear down a hole in the wall and I will find a way. And then to read that, you know, your life is not just the analogy, it's literally what you started off doing and realized, hey, I can do this metaphorically as well because I'm doing it physically. I was just, you know, you got me right there and I had to just keep reading because it was just such an amazing story. I love that so much. And I have to quote a little piece here because this is what really got me and where I felt so validated was when you said, while other people are planning things to an early death, blue fishers have already tried something 4 different ways and learned what works. And that's so me because I would rather do a billion things and then figure out what works instead of just sitting back and watching. But like you said, there are these other people that are not like that. Do you think that this is like a personality? Do you think this is influences? Do you think people can develop this with time? What's your take on that for the people that plan too much and get paralyzed?
So I'll answer the question with a story. I was very fortunate to be down at SpaceX when Elon Musk was using these. He realized that the most expensive thing of a rocket going into space was the fuel cells. If he could find a way of getting them back and landing them on those floating platforms in the ocean, he could refuel them and save a ton of money. So that's what he was working on. And I was at SpaceX when it came down on the platform, and like a lot of them, fell over and exploded like a Hollywood movie. Now, there was half of the crowd when it exploded went, oh, and kind of held their head and kind of leant back. What I noticed, pinnacly different with Elon, was the second this happened, he grabbed the desk and he leant in. He started analyzing the data. Where did it go wrong? Where did I lose it? It landed, the platform was there. So there were two things that were right. But something went wrong. I noticed through all of the entrepreneurs I've ever dealt with in the planet that they lean in to failure to discover the education. Education doesn't come from success on success on success. That's a compound rate. Success comes from when things go wrong and you go, where did that go wrong? And then you learn. Now, I think people can realize that and benefit from that, but there's a lot of people that choose not to. There's a lot of people that when things go wrong, they find comfort in leaning back and going, oh my God, and throwing a pity party. Right. But the successful people always lean in to a failure and go, how can I make this right? And I think you can realize it, but at the end of the day, I think us entrepreneurs, we are different.
Right.
And especially you, I've known you for like 3 seconds. I guarantee you, a lot of the time, you dull yourself down when you're in a crowd because you don't want to reveal who you are and you feel as though you don't fit. Mm-hmm. Well, the fact is, ladies and gents, entrepreneurs were never meant to fit.
Right.
We're meant to dominate. We're meant to create. We are the kids from Hogwarts that every now and then play in the real world, but we're there to kind of disrupt things.
Oh my gosh, you have the best analogies. And to have an Elon Musk story in your sleeve because you were present and you saw it all, that is so true. And it's just that reaction of when things go wrong. You just nailed it beautifully. What do you do with that? And I think for me, even though I've been such a go-getter, getting my emotions controlled has been key, or detaching my emotions as to not take it personally like it was a personal failure and I'm an awful human being, and just taking that as education, like you said, and moving on has been huge. And a follow-up question, because I wanted us to focus specifically on women and your vision of that, because a lot of why I have beat myself up, I think, over being such a go-getter is because I started my business after I had kids and I had triplets. And I had a lot of backlash of, why are you doing this? Why are you taking something else on? You are crazy. Take care of your kids. And I started feeling bad. I started feeling like I was crazy. They were thinking I was crazy and made me feel like I was crazy. And this is mostly from family. And then reading something like that and learning from other mentors too, I realized, just like what you're saying, I'm not like you people. And that is okay. I will embrace that I am from Hogwarts and I will just keep moving with it. And it's been so liberating to just accept my essence. And then to have you describe that there are people out there that entrepreneurs are like that made me feel super good about myself. But then thinking about women specifically in your experience in this sense, do you think there is more of a resistance when women are like this, like the go-getters, let me tear down this wall and go through it? And so that's why they tone it down a little bit more. What do you think?
Yeah, funny little comment on what you were saying there. Isn't it funny how sometimes the worst information we can get are from those that are closest to us?
Right. It's amazing.
And, your family, your close friends, it's like the person that goes down to the pub on a Friday night. He's just sold his car. He's got $10,000 and he wants to invest it in the stock market. And he's taking advice from a guy at the end of the bar that's never invested anything. So it's always funny where people try and get advice from. We sadly, I hesitate there. We sadly still have some of these antiquated views of where the women are supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And even though we think we're more developed and we think we're a little bit more, educated now, we still go, well, hang on, you had kids. How can you possibly look at making a career? How can you possibly look at that? I guarantee you, hand on heart, I would not be able to achieve a single thing if the strongest person in my life, fortunately, was not my wife. Okay, my wife is an intrapreneur. She's not an entrepreneur.
Okay.
I believe there are three people in the planet. There's entrepreneurs. We're the risk takers. We're the ones that jump off a cliff and then what am I thinking?
Parachute.
Parachute. God, where did I go wrong? Yeah, they jump out of the frying pan into a volcano. The entrepreneur tends to be the person that creates but doesn't overthink, but does overdo and tends to get into problems. Then there's the intrapreneur, who's the brilliant support, the pillar that can action those ideas. You need those two people. When you get two entrepreneurs together, no shit gets done, but they talk a lot of great ideas. Right? But when you've got an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur, that's where magic can happen. And then you've got these people called wantrepreneurs. Those people that go, oh, I'd love to work for myself, but I'm scared of the risk, so I'm not going to take any. Oh, I'd love to do that because being an entrepreneur looks so fulfilling. No. As an entrepreneur, we know that we move away from security into insecurity to try and create it for ourselves. I think women overall are underestimated, which actually gives you a little bit of an edge there.
True story.
Okay? Because we're not expecting you coming. Now, I run these events called speakeasies. I'm not pitching it because it's already sold out. But 60% of our crowd are female dominators.
Really?
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. It's those people that just get out there and go, okay, I'm going to do this. Now, you're used to people saying, oh, you can't do that. Know your place. You should be over here. And you have a lot of sensitivity. Okay. Women have more sensitivity than men. Fact. Okay. But today we're in an experiential world. Okay. We are being trained to operate on transactions, which means that we're missing out on the experience. We're missing out on the emotion. We're missing out on the connection. Women are better tuned to understanding that. So you actually have an unfair advantage today to dominate that maybe you didn't have 5 years ago, but people want experiences. You always hear that people want to be heard. Guys aren't good at listening.
Right.
Okay? They're too full of themselves. Women listen, care, acknowledge, and then react.
Right.
So I think you're in an unfair advantage. Go get it.
Okay, awesome. Well, and to segue into what you were saying, I think that is our advantage and our leverage, but it could also be hard for us in the downfall because then we get the emotions in the way, which goes back to what I was saying in the beginning of, taking things personally, whereas men are more data driven for the most part. Let's look at the numbers, let's look at the facts, and women have the sensitivity, which could go well, but then it could also be a little bit hard. And I think for me, it's been a matter of combining the two. And something that I wanted to get into that you talk a lot about is the relationships and that interpersonal connection that has been lost, I think, in the online space with all the automations. You talk so much about that, sending the billions of emails. Whereas if you just send, snail mail, surprise somebody with something inexpensive, it doesn't have to be crazy, but just letting them know that you listened, right? That you understand them, that you're thinking of them. That is, I think, maybe easier for women in that sense. And it's something that we are losing and almost forcing women to be more in the masculine of, let's just treat everyone like robots and numbers. And then you really lose the magic of business because you're just focused on the money. I would love for you to speak to that and also another thing after this, but it has to do with it, is when you talk about diluting of relationships, diluting of your light, of your energy. I just love that word because I see now that I watered down a lot of me, just like what you're saying, of being afraid of, being too show-offy. And then your book helped me realize I don't have to do that anymore.
Well, so let me give you the context of the book. I always believed, there's this saying that goes around, you are the combination of the 5 people you're around.
Right.
I had never heard that until I heard it. So I made up my own. And my own for many years was, you are the room you're in. And I realized I was in a room full of broke-ass bikers. So I was a broke-ass biker. Simple as that. I needed to change the room I was in. I needed to get into a room full of more creators, people that had permission to do things differently, people that had permission to fail. And so I grew up compelling myself to be in these rooms. And along the way, there were all these myths, conceptions, parameters, laws of business that I didn't agree with. And the times have changed. What worked and what was right in 1991 is not relevant in 2001, could never be done in 2011, and we'll never speak about it again.
Yeah.
So how we think that doing what we've been doing is the way that we have to do it is a concept that's marred inaccuracies already. You are very emotional. You've already stated a number of times in this conversation about how you can't do this because of what other people will think.
Right.
You're very intimidated by other people's opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Even though you're very strong, you're very powerful, you're very out there, you're considerate detrimentally to yourself of what other people care.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There's this saying that it's not personal, it's business.
Mm.
Okay? We're in a world now of orders. We walk into a room and we order Alexa or Siri to turn the bloody light on, to change the heating, to put the music on. You pick up the phone and you don't dial a number, Siri, call mum. We're used to transactions. You go on Amazon on a daily basis and you order stuff from Amazon and you have an expectation for it to be there. But how much of a relationship do you have with Amazon? When was the last time you phoned up Amazon and said, hey, Amazon, I'm thinking of changing my toilet roll. Which one should I get?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think it's possible for you to be able to do that.
Right.
I don't think you can phone Amazon. So we're in a world now of transactions. And COVID has made everyone say, oh, I wish I could go and see my friends. I wish I could hang out. COVID has ripped us away from each other. Bullshit. We started getting ripped away from each other when MySpace was invented, when Friendster was invented, and it's got worse and worse. We have a baby now. We don't phone up our mates. We post it on Facebook.
Right.
Then we're devastated if people don't give us glowing reviews
Mm-hmm.
of our new little bundle. The bottom line of it is we have distracted ourselves. COVID has just amplified it. But the fact is, we need to be personal in a transactional world.
Mm.
If you want a relationship, you can't be transactional.
Right.
Okay? Because that's just a transaction. If you want to build a relationship, you've got to be vulnerable. You've got to be real. You've got to care. So while you are hyper emotional and you care, now trust me, I'm 240 pounds of ugly, but I get upset when someone takes something the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
If I did not, I would not have the ability to care.
Right.
So you may look at it and go, oh, when things go wrong, or when someone doesn't want to do business with me, or someone says something nasty about me, makes me feel bad and I feel all kind of emotional about it. Well, that's the response to your power. Okay? It's kind of, you can't have one without the other.
Right.
There's got to be times when you've just got to suck it up, shove it down in your gut, and go forward.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the time, the way to get over that is two ways. One, to analyze where it went wrong. Again, lean into the problem.
Yeah.
Why does that person think that it didn't work for them? Why does that person have that negativity to me? Because 9 times out of 10, you are the root of all of your problems. Okay? You could have said something and gone, oh, it didn't, that was out of context. And you're the fault. Okay,
Right.
So that's the first thing you've got to do. The second thing you've got to focus on is, are you a valued asset / solution? Like you talk about coaching. I coach people and I always say They say, oh, is it a 12-month contract? And I say, no, it's a 1-month contract. I say the bottom line of it is the second I become an invoice rather than an asset, stop paying.
Right.
Okay. So when you're talking to people and you're getting into this emotional context, start going, well, hang on a minute. Let's step away from the emotion. Let's start looking at the value. You know, let's not worry about what I'm saying. Am I delivering? Am I solving? And when you start looking at whether or not you're an asset and a solution, it actually helps you reframe your mindset, and it not breaks away from the emotional, but it reframes it.
Oh my gosh. So many things to unpack there. I love that you said you can't have one without the other, but you can be more in control of your reactions and be more intentional too with why am I feeling this, right? Where is this going to take me? And I know that people get caught up in all of this because they're just being taken by the emotion and they feel like they don't have control over themselves, and that is a lie. When we realize that we have control over ourselves, and it goes back to what you were saying, looking at something as a reason to move forward and fix whatever is going, or just looking at the problem as an excuse and saying, "Woe me, pity party." You have to choose one of the two paths. We're choosing one of the two daily, all of the time as we're interacting with people, whether we realize that or not. So thank you for that permission of understanding that it's a good thing that I get emotional. I just need to hone in on that, because otherwise I wouldn't care for them. And I love the idea of the asset and the solution, because it helps you separate too, that you're not supposed to save this person. You're not the end all for everything. You can, and there's one of my mentors that says you can't take somebody further than they're willing to go. And that's what coaching is, right? You're there to facilitate, but they have to do it themselves.
Yep.
So that's incredible. I loved all of the examples and all of the things. And I would love for you to talk a little bit more about how things have been diluted in that sense of, you already addressed that, but in terms of getting more personal as an entrepreneur in this day and age, what are some of the tips and things that you could suggest, which are in your book? And I'm hoping everyone will go read it after this.
So, as I say, we've already clearly stated that we're in a transactional society, and it's getting more. In fact, COVID, I look at COVID, funny enough, as alcohol. Okay. If you're in a happy mood and you have a couple of glasses of wine, it puts you in a happier mood, doesn't it?
Right.
If you're in a depressed mood and you have a couple of drinks, it puts you in a more depressed mood. Alcohol is an amplification to the mood that you are already in. Okay. Yes. We've had a year of clampdown. And what it's done is it's amplified your strengths, it's amplified your weaknesses, and it's created habits. If COVID had only been around for a couple of months, no problem. But we've had a year now of doing Zoom, ordering transactions. People are on Uber Eats, they're on delivery services. You know, how many times now, if you do go out to a restaurant, are you given a barcode? Instead of giving a menu, you're now given a bar mat and it's got the barcode on it and you have to use your phone. Well, if we remember last year, and especially with kids, when you go to a dinner with the kids and they get their phones out, you go, put your phones away, we're having dinner, okay? When you go to a restaurant today, they give you a barcode which orders you to get your phone out.
Yeah.
So they're creating habits, okay? Understand, first of all, whatever the next few years gives us, it's creating a mindset and it's creating habits. Work against those habits to create an impact. At the moment, we are losing just the connection, even with our server. I went to a restaurant the other day. They sat us down. They gave us the bar mat that had the barcode on it. They said, the menu's on there, order there, and someone will deliver it. We didn't even have the interaction with the waitress. You know, we completely lost that.
Yeah.
So the bottom line of it is, as we lose more, what you give will appear to be far more impactful. I'll give you a tip. A lot of people send emails, don't they? Okay. You get a ton of emails a day and you respond with your emails. Now you're smiling at me. But what if I'm in a really bad mood and I get your email? How am I going to read your email? You see, understand, whatever you say is unimportant. The importance is how I am reading and absorbing it. If I'm in a happy mood, again, like alcohol, and you come across a bit chirpy, I'm going to go, oh, that's funny. I love this. It's great. But if I'm feeling really depressed and you come across with something a little bit chirpy, I may look at it as sarcasm. Okay? Now, everything that you send out to someone will be interpreted by the mood that they were in. Okay? Aren't you giving up a little bit of a control by therefore something you can't see?
100%.
So how can you get that back? I'll tell you. Do this thing, and this is crazy, so I'm going to pre-warn you. Phone them. Okay? Get your email in, pick up the phone, and phone them, and then just go, hey, Billy, sorry for him. So I got your email, but I just wanted to talk through with you so that I could really understand what it was you were asking. And show you care. Show that you need to know the full core reasoning of the request. This is how you stand out against a world of transactions. This is how you stand out against the latest flashy advert for whatever you provide. Simply making a phone call. Now, bearing in mind, in the 80s and 90s, if I had said to you, hey, if you want to get ahead, make a phone call, you'd have been turning around going, what the bloody hell do you expect us to do, Steve? We do that every single day.
Right.
It's nothing unusual, okay? It is just unheard of today.
It is.
You know? If you pick up your smartphone and you look on the data section of your smartphone to see how much time you made on phone calls versus how much time you spent on emails and internet, you spend less than 5% of your time using a smartphone to phone. So, you know, it's ridiculous now.
It is.
And when someone phones you, how many times do you look at a phone call and look at it as as just an interruption? How many times does the phone ring? Look at it when you're in a restaurant and the phone rings and you look at them and you go, oh my God, you know, can't you put that on mute? You know, we are insulted, annoyed when we are interrupted with phone calls. So we're kind of going against it. So what I do is I will text someone and I'll go, hey, Joanne, just to let you know that I'm just finishing off a call and I'm going to phone you afterwards. So now they're expecting it. So then I phone you and I go, hey, thanks for taking the call. Yeah, I got your email. Thank you very much for that. But I just wanted to understand, why send me the email today? Why is it important we're working on this project now? I have never, ever, and I can't labor that too much, ended up doing for the client what the email requested me to do. It's always been more. They've always gone, well, yeah, now that you mention it, yeah, let's not do that. Let's add this, or let's do this, or you're right, let's go in that direction. Let's not do it today. Let's do it next month. The transaction, the request from the client has never, ever been the same after I phone called. And I've always said to people, and I train my clients on this, in today's world, do not give a client what they ask for. Provide what they lust, dream, and desire for. You see, Amazon can deliver you whatever you want, but it can't think,
right?
Can't create. That's what's going to make you stand out. So move away from a transaction. If you feel, hey, I've just given the client what they asked for, you've just done a disservice, and Amazon's probably building a program to put you out of business.
Totally. Oh, that is so true. And one thing that came to mind before when you were talking about being in the room with smarter people and being the dumbest person in the room, I had thought about something, and I think it goes hand in hand with what we're saying here, that we've distanced ourselves because it's more practical in a way, because, you know, technology has facilitated. But I think a lot of it too is to shield ourselves maybe from the uncomfortable and from being vulnerable,
Oh,
and from asking those questions, or from having to say things that we don't want to say because we can hide behind the screen. Do you think that is?
great questions. Great questions. We are terrified to communicate today.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are petrified. You think about it. In the last few years, we've had Me Too, Asian hate, Black Lives Matter, a polarizing political war at the end of the election.
Yeah.
And we are scared to say something in case it comes out as us being uneducated, ignorant, rude. And we're also scared to say something because we know that the soundbite could be taken and then worked out of context. So now that we're fearful of not being educated enough to have a good statement or a good conversation on the Me Too campaign or Black Lives Matter or the death of Floyd, any of these things, instead of us going, I would like to have a conversation on it, we do the opposite and we actually say nothing. Now, in a world where we're losing the ability to communicate and the world of transactions are coming in, surely the genius idea of us not having a conversation is the worst one. Right. We should now actually go, well, actually, I don't fully understand this. Mm-hmm. Can you explain it? I had someone say to me a little while ago that they were insulted that someone asked them to explain it. Mm. And I said, well, you should have been insulted. You should have been proud that you were the one asked to help educate the person. Mm. Today, the one thing that we have that makes us stand out from anything is the ability for us to be able to communicate and grow from that communication, from that education of having that conversation. Mm-hmm. Us running away from it is toxic, is cancerous.
Yes.
Can you imagine if we stop communicating because we're so terrified what the next few years are going to be? It's disastrous. I say a lot of things, as my wife says sometimes too much, and I stick my foot in my mouth countless amounts of times. But again, just like we were talking earlier about when you fail, that's where your education comes from. When you say something out of turn, don't be the jackass that has someone laugh at you. Benefit from the education that it turns you right. It smartened you up. And it got you educated to go, thank you. I understand where I was wrong now. Appreciate it. I won't make that mistake. Benefit from it, grow from it. But you can't do any of that if you don't have the conversations that you're scared to have.
Yes. Oh, 100%. And thank you for bringing this up and mentioning it, because even mentioning it at times feels like, oh my gosh, I can't be talking about this, or what will people think, or am I saying something wrong? And I think especially I saw that a lot last year for entrepreneurs that use the online space. It was tough. It was tough because if you didn't say anything, you were in the wrong and people were called out. If you said something, you didn't say the right thing. So it was kind of hard to know how to even behave. And
that's a good point. But funny enough, someone said to me a while ago, be so successful you have haters.
Right?
Okay?
That's when you know you made it.
Yeah. The people that actually say things on my feeds when I say something, or they come at me, they were never my clients to start with.
Right.
So what am I losing? So when you do actually have a position, and now we're talking to the female business owners here.
Okay.
All right. Get this loud and clear. Some people are going to love you. Some people are going to hate you. Both of those people are beautiful. Okay. Because if someone says to me, I had a coaching call this morning. We have a company called SIMS Media. It's a media company. I had a call with a guy this morning, a prospective client, couldn't help him. Okay. Couldn't help him. He was a total different person to me. We couldn't connect. We agreed, hey, this isn't going to work as a relationship. Okay. Had we not saved each other a load of time there? Was it not respectful that we realized early on that it was not going to work? So that's good.
Right.
The worst people in the world They usually are the loudest to yell are those that are sitting on the fence. Okay? In business, if someone is sitting on the fence as to whether or not they want to do business with you or not, that's your fault. You've got to be so loud and proud as to who you are, what you stand for, and what you are the solution to, that it's impossible for those people not to be able to make a decision on what side of the fence they sit. So you saying something outright, you saying something loud, you having a position actually allows other people the clarity to understand whether or not they're going to work with you. And you need that today, especially in the world of mass distraction.
Mm-hmm. And that is one of your quotes, right? If you have people sitting on the fence, it's your fault.
Someone said to me ages ago, Steve, you need to get a company to kind of like, operate your social feed better. And no, I don't. I just like to if I've got something to say, I'm going to say it. A lot of the time, you'll notice I get spelling wrong. Now, there's a lot of apps now that I will write something and then all of a sudden it will correct the spelling. So I'm happy with that.
Nice.
But for many, many years, I would just put a posting up and the spelling would be wrong, but it didn't matter because the message was the same. The point was still the same. The point was still valid. So I now make my social feed an extension of my point of view, and it's there to create clarity in who and what I stand for. And if you like me, great. If you hate me, fine. But there's no one sitting on the fence with me.
Mm-hmm. That is so true. Oh my gosh, I'm in the team. Love Steve.
Yay!
Yay! Well, and that was one of the things I was going to say. I hope that by the end of the interview, I am somebody you would chug beer with. Tell us about what that is. Although I don't drink beer, am I still accepted?
You absolutely are. It actually came out of a very, very dark time in my life. I realized I was surrounding myself with people that cared about, what they looked like, what they drove. And I was becoming that person because I've always been a biker. I am a biker now. I'm in a black t-shirt and jeans. Always will be. But back then I started wearing suits and fancy watches to try and appeal to you. I realized that I was gaining more money, more clients, and having less connections and less relationships. And it was a very troublesome time for me. And it actually ended up with me going on a very heavy bender where I just got drunk because I lost the whole plot. And I'm on about like a 3-day kind of like, it was a tough one. And I woke up and you'd have thought I would have, after 3 days of, drinking all the alcohol in the office, you'd have thought I'd never want to see a drink again. But I thought to myself, I've got to be able to stick to my main goal, my main value, my main belief. And this idea, this concept came up in my head that I've got to be able to have a drink with them or they shouldn't be in my life. And I don't know how it happened, but this like dream vision came to me that I ended up, once I sobered up and pulled myself up, I told my team about. The team that I kept. I actually fired a lot of people. But I thought to myself, this is the concept. And I teach my clients how to do this now. On a piece of paper, write everyone in your world, in your life that you listen to. Now, we spoke before about sometimes your family you shouldn't be listening to. But put these people down. And here's the exercise you do. In your head, you're walking up the street one day, and on the opposite side of the road of 2 lines of busy traffic is someone in your world. It could be your accountant. It could be your head of sales. It could be your boyfriend, your husband, your mother, whatever. Do you, A, quickly look left into the window of the shop and pretend as though you're really thinking about buying a new mattress, and you watch the reflection for the person to walk behind you, so that you can then look back up on the street and pretend as though you didn't see them? Or do you, B, run across 2 lanes of traffic, jump in front of them and go, Jimmy, let's go grab a coffee? If it's not the second, get them out of your life. I only want to meet people, and I'll do it with you, girl. I only want to meet people that I would be so inspired to run across 2 lanes of roaring traffic, to jump in front and go, let's go and grab a cup of coffee. I want to converse with you. If it's not that person, they need to be out here. And I did that. I did it with my clients. I did it with my sales team. I did it with my accountant. I did it with members of my family that I've never spoken to since. All right. And, you know, just get rid of the things that don't work for you.
Yeah.
And that's my chug test.
Yes. Well, and it goes hand in hand with what we were saying about sitting on the fence. We can talk, you know, business with clients, but it's the same thing with any relationship, because a client relationship is a relationship. So it goes for anything. And it goes back to trying to please everyone. I don't want to say no. I don't want to be disliked. It really goes back to all of that. But if you're really prioritizing your life, your values, where you're going, and you have that vision, then you have to be able to weed out the people that are not following that vision. That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, and it also bleeds through. Have you ever had a conversation with someone that was awkward, and the conversation was tough, and you're on the phone and you're going, well, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but, you know, maybe if we did, no, of course you're right. And you end up playing that game. And then you get off the phone and you're physically exhausted because it's been like a sword fight for you to, and you go, well, the client brings me a lot of money. Oh, the client doesn't. But here's what happens. You get off that phone, you're exhausted. You don't make another positive phone call because you're already beaten up. Okay. And this has happened to me, and thankfully it's happened to me. I remember my wife phoned me up just after I got off of one of those phone calls. And because she's so close to me, you don't put on airs and graces, do you?
Right.
So I picked up the phone. I was like, yeah, what is it? Because I'd been beaten up by this other client.
Right.
And my wife, in a very calm voice, said, you don't talk to me like that. And I realized that the overflow of this person's phone call, how it had beaten me up, was now allowing me to take that negativity over here. Now, what if my wife hadn't have been that phone call? What if it had been a client that I couldn't get back from my duffing up? And I was like, yeah. The client would have gone away going, well, that guy's not very enthusiastic. I don't like that guy. They would have never paid me the respect of calling me back a week later and going, hey, you were in a bad mood last week. So this cancer from a bad client starts bleeding into your other relationships. I realized then my wife was way more important than this client. And so I made sure that I got rid of the toxicity in my world. Don't allow it to bleed through. You think you're in control of it, but it's eating you up. And you can't get rid of cancer just by having a tablet.
Right.
You've got to cut that bitch out. So that's what you've got to do with bad people. Clients are the worst people, because your clients, how you react with your clients bleeds over into your home life. And if you start having a bad day dealing with bad clients, what's your mood when you're at home with those you love?
Right. Oh, that makes so much sense. And it goes the other way around too, for the people that are the naysayers. In my case, having to kind of cut off the people that weren't believing in me. Kids are all around. I've been having to mute myself because they're screaming playing. But hey, it's part of the business.
It is.
But yeah, with me having to really be assertive to these people, to say I'm continuing on, that gave me more of the confidence, and I wasn't allowing that toxicity to come into my business, because I knew I was holding myself back because I could sense the disapproval. So
no, exactly. Yeah, you've got to control. It's your life.
Right.
It's nobody else's. And if you value those people around you, then you've got to make sure what you surround yourself is positive and benefiting you and them. Because if it's bad for you, it's going to bleed into them.
Yes, totally. Oh, Steve, this has been so amazing. Before we wrap up and I have people go find you on social media and you give us all the information, I actually have like some rapid fire questions that I do at the end. Hope you don't feel it's too cheesy, but it's part of my framework that I lead clients into. So whatever comes to mind, whether it's just one word or a sentence, you can do whatever you want. We're here to listen to your wisdom. So are you ready?
Yep.
The first one is notice yourself.
Notice yourself.
Mhm.
Wow. Yeah, you've got to own yourself. Otherwise, you can't show other people.
Love it. Listen to yourself.
Imperative.
Uh, for, Forgive yourself.
Oh, critical.
Empower yourself.
An exercise that you consistently need to do.
Mhm. And last but not least, transform yourself.
Can't grow if you don't.
There you go. Oh my gosh, spot on. Thank you so much, Steve. Tell us how to find you, how to go get your book. Tell us the name and all the things so people can tune in, but I'm going to overshare for sure.
All right. So stevedsims.com. There's only one M in Sims, and do not forget the D for dashing. So stevedsims.com is my website. You can find the book on there, or you can find it on Amazon at Bluefishing, the Art of Making Things Happen. If you are a creative disruptor, I have a free Facebook group called An Entrepreneur's Advantage with Steve Sims. If you want to get more of me, direct with me, then I have a private community called Sims Distillery at simsdistillery.com. But you can find everything on stevedsims.com.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I'll continue to follow you. I have to reread the book because I'm sure I missed so many amazing things because there's so much wisdom in there. I so appreciate you. Keep up the good work. I know you will. And thank you for being here.
Great interview. Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness, this was just such a blast. I am so grateful for this opportunity to talk to someone so inspiring. What were your takeaways? I'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to connect with Steve. Do yourself a favor and grab his book. So good. Until next time, bye.